Hey guys, I'm Michael Hoyer with Watertown Brewing Company here at Michael Brews, and today we're gonna be going through an actual recipe, okay? We're gonna go fairly in depth, so I apologize, this video is gonna have some length to it, but we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna walk you through our process as to how we would do like a new beer in the brewery. That gives us a little more freedom as to not having to exactly hit things right on the dot necessarily, and we can kind of ballpark because this is experimental in a lot of ways. So this is our first IPA of 2024. The sheet that I have here are the brew steps that come from Beersmith. Yeah, I still use Beersmith, but reason being, it's actually been really accurate. I tend to hit whatever the predicted gravity is going to be, and it works out. So without further ado, guys, let's get into it. All right, guys, first things first. So I have my hoses set up right now. The way this flows in our brewery, I'm gonna have you just so you can see it here. On the right here, that's our boil kettle. In the center, that is our mash tun, and on the left is our hot liquor tank. Now I filled my hot liquor tank and my boil kettle last night. And so right now, they're already up to heat. If you look over here at the controller, you can see we got our temperatures. I have 172 on the boil kettle, and it's in about 169 right now on the hot liquor tank, but that'll bump back up into 170. It's about where we go. Basic setup here, I have the out of the boil kettle going into my pump, which this is the in right here. And then it goes to the out on that, and it's going up into our mash tun through the actual strike water spout, right? Let me just show you what I mean. It comes out of this guy right here. It's got a bunch of holes in it. It spreads out the water. What we need to do first is preheat our tank. So if we look at our recipe sheet, we can see we have a mash in where we need to put 153 gallons into the tank. So that lets us know on our gauge how low we need to go. If you look at the gauge, which I actually had to go through, I measured water all the way up here to get to 70 gallons, and then I did it again to get to 75, to get to 80, and then I was able to make a measurement on this and actually etch in our measurements. So our tank at the top of the sight glass is about 212 gallons, I know that. 153 is gonna be about right here. Okay, so that's where we're gonna go to. Let's start transferring. All right, so at the bottom of the tank, we're gonna open it up. That's letting water into the pump now. And then we're gonna go ahead on our controller. This one is like basically 0 to 100. Your start's right here. But we'll go ahead and we'll turn it on. We'll hear it. Sorry, this is loud. That's what it looks like going in. We wanna keep as much of that heat in as we can. All right, we'll let that run down. Okay, if you're looking at this right now, there's our water. We're coming up on the 160 at the moment. It's gonna be right here. So if you watch it, it's going down. All right, see, 153. You wanna be a little bit over it just in case. All right, guys, so we've got the liquor inside the tank right now. And by liquor, I just mean hot water. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna grab the bottom spout here. I've got a hose going in, going out into a drain. We gotta let all this hot water out now. We're just heating up our tank. There. All right, draining. Okay guys, while that drains, move this out of the way a little bit. While that's draining, I'm gonna go ahead, go in here and just get these open, get them ready to go. Now these are really easy. Some of y'all remember the old ones where they were harder than heck to get open. These, you just gotta pull on these little tabs and the whole bag goes. Now you're gonna notice I don't have lots of like half bags. When it comes to base malt in our brewery, we try to design all our beers to just be full bag increments. If you wanted to be really finessey, yeah, you could break it apart, but then you end up with all these partial bags, and that just ends up being kind of a mess. This one you see I'm kind of fussing with because, and actually it's pretty undone. All our bags dumped off the pallet when it arrived. It was icy out and the pallet actually broke. All open. Next thing I'm doing here, just getting a ladder in place so that when we're doing our mash in, I have something safe to stand on. Perfect. One last thing. Can't forget your mash paddle. All right, guys, I'm getting my brewing salts together here. I need 50 grams of calcium chloride. I know this is sophisticated. Okay, 50 grams of calcium chloride, and then on top of that, we're gonna add 50 grams of gypsum. Yeah, gypsum, traditionally, it's really just chalk, which, I don't know, I feel like that weirds people out, but basically what we got going on here, I need extra calcium in the water, and to do that I primarily use the calcium chloride, but gypsum has some properties to help beer be a little more clear, so I do like that as well. Also, for this beer specifically, I just want a little bit more bitterness to the water, or perceived bitterness, and gypsum helps with that. Both of these things buffer pH. Let's grab that getting in. So our water, I know our water profile. We're short on calcium a little bit. Yeast loves calcium, it's good for its health. It helps with fermentation. This also, with all that calcium chloride, is going to help lower the pH of our water. Giving that a good old stir. Okay guys, next we're gonna start our mash in process. Just getting my coat off here. Get the water going. Okay, so water's flowing right now. It's filling as we talk. Gonna go ahead, start filling this out. That's one bag. You'll notice that we're using crisp right now. Traditionally, we're more of a Rahr brew house, but I don't know, whatever the deal is, if there was just drought last year or what, but our efficiencies just plummeted with our two-row from Rahr. So I don't know what the deal is there. We're gonna try out some crisp. It's a little more level bond than I would normally wanna go with. It's not as light as your traditional American two-row, but that will also bring on some slightly more biscuity flavors, a little more toasted cracker. Could be good. I also wanna see if our efficiency goes up. Because right now, our efficiency is just garbage. And by garbage, I mean it's not that bad or anything, but it's just, it could be better. Now, when I'm talking about efficiency, I'm sure some of you are wondering, well, what the heck's he talking about? Well, you're talking about the yield of sugar you get off your grain in your process. How well your mash goes, how much waste you have really. How efficiently did you take the sugars in your grain and convert them into beer? Some of that's gonna come down to the volume of beer produced in the end. That can affect your numbers. Some of it's just the mash itself. Did you mash well? There's a lot of pieces to it. But again, we were still producing beer. I just wasn't happy with how well it was going. And so we're gonna change a variable and see if that resolves it. When you see me stirring, what I'm doing there, I'm just mixing the water and the grain around. We're trying to avoid dough balls. Dreaded dough balls. That just happens when your grain all clumps up. If that happens, what it does is it prevents the water from penetrating all that grain, and you end up with underconverted malt. You literally can have patches where you have a big ball, and the inside of it's completely dry. The water never got to it. So you just gotta make sure as you're mashing in, you're mixing that up really well. And guys, you're gonna notice, all my home brewers out there, this process is no different than what you do at home in a cooler. It's just on a larger scale, and I have pumps. Also, the other benefit to getting up to this kind of system, you have what's called thermal mass. We have so much heat in here with so much product, it takes longer for fluctuations to affect it. All right. And guys, I tend to keep it thick. It seems like that actually helps break up the dough balls. If I focus too much and let it get too thin and then I try to pour grain on top, it doesn't mix in as well, in my experience. Now, I know some of you have that giant whisk thing. That's pretty neat. I mean, I just have a wooden one, so. You'll also notice, guys, this is an extremely manual brew house. I have little to no automation. Some of that, when this brewery was started, I don't know if they were just trying to save money there, maybe, because that adds a lot of cost. If you're willing to just do it by hand, you'll get the same result, you just gotta work harder. It's where I don't think there should be a concept of a fat brewer. We're all kind of beefy boys and beefy ladies. Because there's just a lot of manual labor to it when you're like this. I'm just breaking this up. And guys, this is gonna be a pretty big beer today. This system, if I get 10 bags of grain in it, it maxes out. And right now we got 10 of base. Or not 10, excuse me, 8. So that's pretty full. I apologize, this camera was showing stuff. Now it's just fog. Okay, this is my adjunct that I'm putting in. I don't tend to go over 25 pounds of caramel malt in a 5-barrel batch. I mean, you can, yes, of course, but that gets us to about 5% of the mash is that. Anything past that, I don't know. I feel like it gets kind of sticky and unnecessary. My style as a brewer, guys, I like to let the malt shine. Just your base malt, not all the adjunct, sugared up stuff. Now, those extra dextrins you get from your crystal malt, that helps a lot with like head retention and body. So it does have a place that it plays. Alcohol can also generate that same effect. Cool. Then we got 2 more bags of base malt, and then we're gonna have it all in. For those that don't know, these are 55-pound bags. So I say it's a pretty physical process. Still doing good, our mash is looking good. We got another bag that still needs to go in here. Like I said, we're gonna push this pretty much to the system's limit. So, in an IPA, I can kind of do this. This is gonna come out to about, it's projected to be 7. I'm kind of hoping for a little more efficiency on this, and that will get higher than that, but likely it's gonna be 6.5, 7%, somewhere in there. You know, good range for an IPA. A bigger one. We're in the winter. And the winters of South Dakota are cold, man. They're cold, so we need big beers. Not wimpy baby beers. And by wimpy baby beers, I mean session beers are totally fine. I'm just picking on them. All right. We got some dough balls. We're gonna break them up. I'll get you a good shot of what it looks like inside the mash tun once we get all our water over and I get some of these broken up. That last bag did exactly what I said it was gonna do, where the water got ahead of it a little bit. We'll see if I'm silly enough to do this, but sometimes I just end up putting a pair of gloves on and breaking these up by hand, just because the paddle, our paddle, like I said, it's not very whiskey, so it doesn't whisk it up very well. All right. We're at tank capacity. We don't need to go any higher than that. It's plenty good thickness for it and everything. Yeah, so you could see that. All right, we're gonna keep stirring this a little bit because like I said, there's some dough balls going on right now. Now what I do, I get to the bottom in here and I like to break up that bottom. I raise it up to the top. Just to make sure we don't have like clusters on the bottom. See, like this, big dough ball. So we're just gonna press that against the edge, give her a little more stir. I'll just point out the smaller batches, the easier it is to break everything up. The bigger it gets, the more cumbersome that is. There's just more grain, more stuff to work with. Okay, we are gonna be stirring this multiple times, so for now, that's good. All right, let's get the lid shut. And with that, I'm gonna set this for 15-minute intervals. Every 15 minutes, I'm giving this another stir, just to make sure everything's moving around and doing what it's gotta do. But what we can do, set that over there. We can get this ladder out of the way because we don't need to get up anymore. It loosens up a lot after that first push. Whew. Okay. All right, guys, I'm gonna show you a little bag trick here. A lot of folks don't, I don't know. We always try to figure out what we're gonna do with these. I like to just take them, I'm gonna fold them up, get them into one bag just for easier disposal. Right, so like so. And just load them up. And then we can get this garbage too. Goes right in there. Old garbage bag too. There. See? Nice, easy, consolidated, keeping our mess cleaned up. All right, guys, now while we're doing the mash, let's go ahead, we're gonna take a minute, we're gonna mix a sanitizer bucket up, because everything that's gonna touch this beer post-boil needs this. You can always be safer, do it ahead of time. All my connections I tend to sanitize before I connect them. You need 2 ounces. This is Oxonia Active. I got the pump from Uline. This pump is a lifesaver. I'm not kidding. Don't play this game where you dump it out and stuff. Just get it from Uline. I think it was like $100, but oh my gosh, game changer. But again, Oxonia Active is what we use. That comes from, gosh, was it 5-star? Who is it? Ecolab. Comes from Ecolab. We got our 2 ounces right here. Let's go ahead, we're gonna pop over to the bucket, get it going. All right, got my chemical bucket here. All I'm doing, I'm taking that 2 ounces, it goes in. If If you guys have watched my videos before, you've seen this before, but again, you gotta see it every time because guess what? We gotta sanitize every time. That's just cold water going in. And I did splash myself a little bit. I'm gonna have to wash my hands because that'll start burning pretty soon. This is pretty caustic. If you get oxonia on your skin, think of it like hydrogen peroxide on steroids. I can already feel it tingling. Probably not the right thing to be doing. Probably should be wearing gloves. I know, I'm a liability. Just be more careful than that, but you don't want to splash yourself. Okay, pull up. All right, nothing tingling up yet. We'll see. I mean, I can feel it. I don't see anything. So we have all our C-clamps up on hooks after we get done. So all these are, they're C-clamps going in. More C-clamps. Our silicone washers, they go with the C-clamp. There's some more, okay? That gives us somewhere to start, right? All right, guys, while this is mashing, we're gonna set up what's called a grant. No, it's not like we applied for money. This is an old school method for collecting wort. Maybe bigger breweries use it, I don't know. But essentially what we're gonna do is we're gonna take beer out of this bottom hose, right? It's coming out of the tank, it has the little cover in the bottom of our mash tun, and we're gonna bring it over to this tank. This is a 20-gallon Spike brewing hot liquor tank that I use. It has an in and it has an out. That's all it is. The out is higher than the in. And what I'm gonna basically be doing with this is wort flows in, right? And it's gonna have some debris from this tank. Your mash tun always kind of shoots it off when you're like getting ready for the Vorloff, right? When we recirculate, we see a bunch of grain come in. You're supposed to, as a home brewer, take your tank, put it into a pitcher, whatever, dump it back on top, repeat until it goes clear. Well, this eliminates the need for that. And the other real beauty about a grant is that you will never stick your sparge. I haven't managed to stick it because you're letting gravity do the mashing. You're not getting a pump and sucking it out. It's one benefit that some home brewers, I would say, have over some breweries is that breweries get in the habit of getting impatient and using a pump and sucking hard. When you do that, you can collapse your grain bed too tight, and then it's just the slowest sparge you can think of. This eliminates that, and it also just improves clarity because I can look into this tank while I'm doing my research to see what my clarity looks like. It's a huge benefit, man. And I do this every time. It's something I added to my process maybe like 3 years ago, and I haven't looked back. I mean, it's just pretty superior. So it's a little tricky though. This is like our stiffest tube. There we go. So I got it on. And again, guys, you get really good at this one-hand stuff the longer you do it. There we go. I have it a little off to the side right now because I'm showing you guys what's up. Okay, I have this here. Now I need to connect my pump, this, from the hot liquor tank over to this tank because that's where it's gonna route from now. I'm gonna seal this up because there's a little bit of water left in the tank, but that can stay there, that's not a big deal. Also guys, it's a brewery. You're gonna get water on your floor. Don't be so scared of that, not a big deal. There's a little bit of mess involved. All right. Just resituating this hose a little bit, moving my pump. This is now going over to the out of our grant. So we'll go ahead and connect that. Okay, and I'm gonna grab you guys here and give you a perspective on this again. Sometimes I feel like flow is hard to explain to people. So, when you're getting ready to recirculate, we're taking it out of the bottom of our mash tun, right there. It comes over to our grant. It will fill this container. As it goes up, it'll push out of the container back to the pump in the bottom. The bottom of the pump is in, and then it's gonna hit the top, and then we'll trace that back out to the recirculation stuff up here where it was shooting the spouts of water, right? It's gonna go back up there. That's gonna help us establish our grain bed and clarify our wort before we start doing a full Vorlauf. Okay guys, and then again, in the interest of time, when you are doing your mash, you have a lot of opportunities to get some other setup done. We're gonna go ahead, we're gonna set up our other pump to our hot liquor tank so we can get the Vorlauf semi set up. The way I go about this, the line that's gonna go to this is huge. I'm gonna go grab it for you, you'll be able to see it. It's huge because we use it later to pull water off of a different process. And so let's go ahead, I'm gonna grab that. All right, top side of the hose, right here, I'm gonna put it into the bottom of our hot liquor tank. Okay, now, you're probably thinking I'm gonna take this and I'll hook it up. No, we're gonna take the hot water, I'm gonna blow out everything in this hose. We just wanna make sure this is always clean. You never know if something got into it. There we go, that's hot water too. So I mean, it's a pretty sterile process. I've never had issues or anything, but again, it's just, be safe. Always be diligent, always do what looks like the right thing from the get-go. If you're lazy, you're gonna pay for it. Just do the right thing, right? Okay, we're connecting that. Now I can take this one step further. I'm gonna go grab another hose. We'll get that on to our out, but it's not gonna connect to anything yet. Okay, so I'm just taking this again, tri-clamp, connecting it to the top of the pump because we might as well get ahead. Now these don't coil on themselves, so it's not such a big risk to have to blow them out. I know there's no liquid in it. I know nothing's been sitting there. But we got that connected. Now, you should ask yourself, I got more time. What can I do now to save myself time on the back end? Well, remember we had a bucket of grain, so let's go wash our bucket. All right, guys, we got more time because we're still mashing, so let's find something else we can do to be productive. I'm gonna go ahead and get our first hop addition done. We're not even close to doing hop additions, but again, utilize your time effectively. There's no need to create work. For this recipe, and I don't care that you guys know, it's fine. I'm doing 3 pounds right off the bat. I'm doing a pound of Eldorado. I'm doing a pound of Raku. If I pronounce that right, who knows? Hear the timer? That's my first 15-minute stir. We'll do that in a second. I'll just hit restart. These things don't have to be right on the money, guys. These 15-minute intervals, it's not like the beer's gonna explode or die or something if I don't get there in the first second. And then this last one is Nelson Sauvin. These are all very citrusy, very orangey. Granted, this is the bittering edition, so I mean, you're not gonna get a lot of that, but they do bitter differently. I don't think that some folks realize. They do have different intensities of bitterness. I for whatever reason, it's just phenols and stuff, but like, we'll let that sit. That's 3 pounds there. Let's go stir the mash. Okay, popping that open, make sure I'm not getting that. Again, as you can see, this is a super full mash, guys. We're making big beers. Smashing another one of those dough balls. They kind of float to the top as you get going. We're just gonna give this a good stir. I can feel that our mash is pretty loose. So I'm not super concerned about this actually getting contact or anything, just because again, nice and loose. Had to look at my watch there. I tend to go 1 quart per pound. This is just a little bit more than that. Default on Beersmith is 1.25 quarts. That's okay too. I just tend to kind of minimize it so I can get as much grain in as I possibly can safely. You know how I told you like this maxes out at 10? Well, you might be looking at this going like, dude, that's already full right there. Well, that's where 1 quart saves a lot of room in comparison to 1.25 quarts. So you do have some pockets there. Set this down in the grant. And that's stir number 1. All right, guys, we talked briefly about mash pH and how the water and the salt adjust it. As you can see, I took a little sample. It's just sitting right there. I want you to be able to see it. I know this is a silly way to look at it, but it's at 5.5 right now. This is continuing to kind of go down. It's adjusting, right? Your ideal range for mash pH is between 5.2 to 5.6. So as you can see, this is still buffering and like going down. It's just, it takes a second for it to read. And so it'll keep adjusting until it knows for sure. It's also a little bit on the warm side. That's why we have the adjustment probe. Sometimes they recommend that you get it to room temp, but I mean, it can compensate, but that's why it's doing what it's doing right now, where it's adjusting still. But the biggest takeaway is that we're in between the range right now. We're pretty much dead center, and that's where our fun conversation about the salts came in. And I'll be honest, most of the time, if it's something like this, where it's a beer that I brewed something similar to this, I mean, most of my IPAs are all pretty much in that same kind of color area, same amount of dark grain, same amount of everything. But I find that every time I've hit in between that range, the only time we gotta be kind of careful and be checking is when we're doing a style we haven't done in a while. And I don't know, I do like to take a reading. I don't always write it down, it's kind of my point. I just check it, make sure that the mash was healthy, make sure it was good, and go from there. But don't get super caught up in trying to figure out your pH, okay? It's a whole video in itself to explain all the chemistry going on there. Just know that because we're in the range, we know that starch conversion should have no problem. So that's the big takeaway there. I wasn't even sure I was gonna talk about it, but there you go. We talked about it. It was quick, it was good. If you have more questions about pH, guys, or you want me to get into it more, I sure can. Just know on a basic level, if you buy a recipe, you probably don't have to worry about it too much. That 5.2 stabilizer stuff does help, but the brewing salts are what brought it down. The grain itself buffers itself down. But like, you watch something like Brewlosophy, I mean, dude, they've talked about high-end pH mashing versus low-end pH mashing, and I don't think they found a huge difference, to be honest. But again, for the sake of a tradition and doing the right thing, that's where we want to be, right? So we're right in the pocket for pH. We know this is gonna be a healthy mash. So we'll see at the end though, right? All right, guys, time for stir number 2. As you can see, the mash is starting to get thicker. See how it's getting more oatmeal-like instead of all watered down? It's absorbing all that water finally. Which is when the stirring really is important. You gotta make sure you're getting that circulated and exposed, and we're getting drawn out as much sugar as possible. Because again, you get your efficiency up, you don't have to use as much grain. And that saves you money in the long run. So again, we'll kind of see where we're at when we get there, but that's that. Guys, the other thing too, we were just talking about salt, buffering the water, getting our pH, right? A word to the wise. If you don't know your water's chemistry, I don't recommend adding a lot of salt. I mean, yeah, you can do your little tiny teaspoon maybe. But realistically, if you don't know what you have for base water, you're just blindly adding stuff. That's not probably the best idea. If you're able to make beer, and just try, if you're able to make beer without doing anything to it and the flavor seems good and you're getting decent extraction, I wouldn't worry so much about it. I used distilled water forever and added some nutrients to it, and you know, it was fine. Realistically though, what you should do, there's a website called Ward Labs, W-A-R-D Labs, and they have a water sample test that you can do, so just go to that site. I have nothing to do with them, I'm not affiliated with them, but you can go to that site, look up that test, and then you can actually purchase it. So they send you a little sample vial. They have a protocol you do for collecting your water. You collect the water you're gonna use for brewing, and then essentially you're able to take that and they'll do a whole breakdown of all the minerals you have going on in there, how much calcium you have, how much sodium you have, how many sulfites are in it. And once you have that, you can input it into something like Beersmith, which again, no affiliation, but you can put it into something like that and actually calculate out your water. It'll tell you when you add your salts how it affects it and what it's gonna do to your sulfide chloride ratio, whether it's gonna be balanced, otherwise, whether it's gonna be leaning towards malty or if it's leaning towards the bitter side of the house. So like today's profile, I pushed it to slightly bitter because we're doing an IPA. I want a little bit more of that bite in this one. So hopefully that turns out, but don't blindly add stuff to your water unless you know what you're doing. You're guessing. Why guess? You can measure it. Why guess? So that's my 2 cents on that. We're down with our second stir. We've got 2 more to go. All right, guys, we're coming into stir number 3. Oh my gosh, it's getting even thicker. Yeah, she really thickened up, man. All right, we got that was our last stir. Sorry, so you saw me do it 3 times, right? The last one, what we're gonna end up doing is starting the recirc, so that's what we'll focus on. All right, guys, now we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna start the recirc process. What that's going to involve, I'm opening up this tank to my left, which is our mash tun. I'm gonna go ahead and open that. I'm gonna let you see what happens when we open it. It's gonna go pretty quick here though. Should open it a little softer probably, but that's okay. We got her going in. As you can see, it's flowing. It's pretty murky right now. We gotta get ready to start launching that into the tank. So I don't know if you saw that. I lifted this top hose. Your top hose has to be higher than your bottom hose. Otherwise, it doesn't prime the pump. Just physics. But I am cruising as hard as I can right now to keep up with the flow of this liquid. It's recirculating as we go. Here, I'm gonna bring this up so you can see how high this gets. While doing this process, you have to pay attention to it because look how high this is right now. We're getting right up to the top and it's barely keeping up. If you're listening, I just turned up the pump. Look how much junk is in that. That's why this is important as a process to be doing this. And I promise you, it clears out. Guys, as you can see, this is just ripping right now to keep up with that. As this establishes, that's going to slow down. Let's tone it down a little bit. Hopefully we can keep up so we don't have to keep hitting this so hard. Set you guys down for a sec. We got a bunch of grain kind of getting jammed up right now in the top spigots. You heard that sucking sound, that's it finally caught up to the tank. Which is good, that means we're getting past that crazy initial flush. All right, so our tank got a little jammed up in these spigots. I got a second here before this kicks back in. I'm just taking a brush and just wiping that a little bit. Okay. Yep, and then we got flow going back into this tank, which, fantastic, right? All right, guys, I still have to set a timer for this, so let's do that quick. Okay, how long we going? It's, I usually circulate for about 30 minutes. It's really determined by the clarity of this wort. Once it's clear, I mean, it's pretty much ready to go. So your benefit, again, guys, with this grant is that we are drawing wort at the rate that the tank will allow. Gravity's doing all the work there. There's no pressure on the system. And so like for a flat bottom like ours, today I put our old screen in, which can collapse on itself if it's compressed. Like if you start getting suction and it vacuums, it'll crush itself and then level out, which is kind of annoying. But we used to get higher efficiency with it, so I'm trying that out instead of using our slatted bottom. Maybe I'll show you the difference, but we'll see here. Sorry, I'm just watching this for a second. Okay, yeah, it seems like we're in a pretty healthy rate now. You'll still see little bits kind of floating in here. That's the grain. A little grain making its way to the kettle isn't the biggest deal in the world, but again, after 30 minutes, this should get pretty clear. The benefit, again, is that all of that grain is just gonna settle in on the bottom, and then it won't get taken in when we actually transfer over. So that's your perk. But now, we'll check back in here after 30 minutes and see where we're at. All right, guys, we're gonna do a quick talk on mechanical filtration. So this unit, and it's kind of funny, I haven't used this in a minute, guys, just because like our slatted stuff actually did a pretty good job of keeping this all separate and clean. There we go, I just had a little suction on it. But anyway, mechanical filtration. So all this unit has, it's basically like a sieve right here, and they're kind of like coarse filtration. And then you have this one, which is more like the consistency of like your screen windows. And all you really do with this, and it's kind of tricky, so I apologize, it's gonna look really clumsy. It goes on top, like so. Okay, there we go. And so now that mesh is on top of the sieve. And then I'm gonna take this. All this is like a big cylindrical tube, you can see through it. It goes on like that. And this tool's kind of neat. You can use this literally to infuse if you wanted to, which you would load up this hopper full of whatever. I've done it with like vanilla beans and stuff and like cinnamon sticks and just circulated it until I thought it was good. But the way we are going to use this today is as filtration. Now you can do that coarse way, or you can do this fine mesh that I'm gonna do. Basically the way I set it up, it's gonna come in to the end that doesn't have that out. So it's gonna hit the fine mesh filter first, which I know that seems kind of weird, but I just view it as like, it's upgrading the size, right? And we're gonna push through this to make sure we don't get any extra junk into the boil kettle. Always a mixture of feelings there. I know some folks believe the modern convention that if you boil grain, you'll extract tannins and you'll get a bitter beer. But at the same time, I kind of sit there going like, dude, what's a decoction? Decoction mash is you literally take a portion of the wort, boil it to caramelize it, and which makes it sweeter, and then you push it over. So I mean, mix your thoughts, right? But we're gonna go ahead, let's add this to the tank. I'll show you how that's done. And then we're not quite done circulating yet, but I tell you what, it's getting pretty exciting how clear that's getting. Guys, I'm here to tell you right now, this looks super silly when you put it on. So we've got this long hose right here. Reason is you can't get it, like you can't open the tank if you don't space it. I'm having to push our pump out of the way a little bit. And then from here, again, this is the side where I would normally put stuff like in it if I was infusing. We're gonna go like this, get it on here. This is a lot of weight. This actually is a great example of how strong tri-clamps truly are. And now we have just mechanical filtration for when our wort pushes into the boil kettle. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy like that. Again, just looking at it, it looks ridiculous, it's huge. But let's move our pump over. There we go. And so that's on the in of our tank. It makes it so that anything coming from this mash tank into the grant, into the boil kettle, gets some extra filtration. Our circulation's all done at this point, and so if you want, we can take a look right here. Let's see how clear this looks. So thinking about what it looked like before to now, that is just perfect. All right, so what we're doing right now, I'm gonna be taking this hose, which is on the out of our pump, and it's going now to the boil kettle. So to do this, we gotta move kind of quick, not too bad. We're gonna stop the pump. I'm sealing the pump off so that it's not flowing anywhere. I'm gonna take this out that is going to the top of the tank right now, disconnect it. Okay, we are gonna take that and bump it over now to the filter. Easy peasy. And again, this is going mash tun to the grant to the pump to the hot liquor, to the boil kettle. I'm gonna open that and turn our pump back on. There, now you can hear it in there going crazy. Okay, from there, what we're gonna do, I need to take my out from my hot liquor tank, and that now goes into the top portion of our mash tun. We're gonna start what's called the Vorlauf, or else sparging. Now some homebrewers, you do batch sparging, right? I tend to do a fly sparge, which is continuous. So I'm setting that open, because it can be open now. We're not losing a lot of heat. I'm gonna plug in my pump, which I'm done with the printer, so perfect. Okay, I'm gonna open our hot liquor tank. I'm gonna dial this back to about like 900. This one has like actual dial amounts on it. It's kind of silly. And then we've got our sparge going, so we'll be able to move this along now. I'll grab a camera quick so you can see this. All right, this isn't as crazy exciting. This is what it looks like in our mash tun now. We're just pushing some clear liquid. This is from the hot liquor tank. Goes on top of the mash. That's gonna start filtering down through the grant. Again, guys, there's the grant. So that is sparging into the grant at a rate determined purely by gravity. From there, it travels to our mechanical filter, which is right there on the ground, the one that's, giant and ridiculous. And then let's take a minute and actually look here. Okay, this is gonna be hard to see here. I'm gonna try and bring out as much light as I can, guys. Okay, and then it just pumps into the tank. Whenever the grant hits, that'll push more liquid in. As we saw before, there was a little bit of water left over from our mash water. That's okay. Again, it's just not that different from sparging with it. But it has our brewing salts in it, so that's why I like to have it in there. But essentially, if the pump kicks in, which I'm just waiting for it. There, pump just kicked in. You'll see a bubble in the center like that. So I know liquid's moving. There, you can kind of see it kind of got there. But anyway, yeah, so we're transferring in. We'll keep doing the sparge, and once that is complete, we'll be able to start boiling and stuff. But I'll give you a heads up here too once we get to the point that we can turn the heating elements on, and we'll talk about that. All right, guys, so this is our panel for controlling heat and stuff. It's electric. Again, there's a lot of electricity. We have an electric system. So this turns it on right here. It's currently on. This is our output. It goes 1 to 10. I have it on 10 right now. To set this temperature, I just need to go into it. All I did there, I hit set. It goes to SP, hit it again. I can adjust it. I set it to 214 while I'm going up to that boil. You hit it twice again like I did, and that sets it to the temperature. Now, I wanted to point this out to you too. This is a sample from the grant. You know that piece of equipment on the ground that I was talking about for making clarity in your beer? This is the wort. So this is just straight wort coming off the tank, and that's what it filters into. So it's really nice and clear. You can see how clear that is. That's why you do that instead of forcing it out before it's actually ready. All right, so we're starting to come up on getting to the boil. Something we do have to worry about, even at this scale, are boil overs. So the way we avoid those, this is called firm cap. It's basically a big white container right here, but I've got I know it's a turkey baster, but it has an easy way to read it. We're just going up to 40 milliliters here, and all I'm gonna do, get over the tank, of course, and then I'm gonna fill that up to 40 milliliters. And that's all you need. Dump it in. And that's gonna help prevent a boil over. All right, guys, we're finally approaching the end of this. I tell you what, I am so used to our other piece, meaning filter, that makes this go so much faster. But once we hit that Sharpie line, that is gonna be where we need to get to. And so once we get there, I'm gonna stop the pump. It's just loading up right now to finish. All right, there we go, we're where we need to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut off the tank, shut off the pump, shut off this tank as well. This is from the mash tun. All right. And while that continues to heat, we're gonna go ahead and clean up. So this is the grant right now. We got some fluid in there. So the way that I do this to avoid making a giant mess, the way I do this to avoid making a giant mess, I take this clamp, I'm gonna lean this back as far as I kind of can so that this gets away, all the liquid gets away from where this opening is. See how we're not just dumping liquid all over the place? There we go. Okay, and then we're gonna lower this down and it's slowly gonna come out. Just remember, guys, we're not wasting good beer here. We're wasting runoff basically at this point. But if you can see it, it's very clear. And that's what we want. That tells us that our sparging was like very successful with the grant. We don't have much debris or anything going in. And the interesting part here is when you can look inside this and see how much grain was actually left over. All right, so you can actually see the clarity in this. Look at all that. Look at all that grain that would have been transferred into the fermenter. But because we took the time with the grant, none of that went in. And we have a very clean bunch of runoff. And that's just as it was coming out, guys. That's ridiculous. Look at all that. That's the value of a grant. One, we didn't compress and get the sparge to stick. Two, none of this junk went into the beer. All right, I'm gonna get this ready so you guys can see the inside of it. Once again, we're gonna crack this open so you can see how much we actually caught in that filter. And so I'm just taking this apart piece by piece. Okay, this is the big part where we were shooting into. Now remember, the flow was in this end, down here, going this way. So the fine mesh should have caught anything that got by our grant, and we'll see how much we really caught. Look at that. That really tells you how good of a job that grant does. We're gonna use this same piece of equipment on the way out to catch any hop debris, especially with an IPA. But it just, I don't know, it tells you a lot of how good that grant is and how nice of a job it does. I mean, it's totally clean in this. So That's a job well done. Now we gotta set up our tank to start sanitizing it and getting it ready for the whole final process here. So I got a 3-way pipe that needs to go on. That'll go on like this into this valve at the bottom of the tank. Okay, so that's on. From there, I need a sight glass, which is what this is. Just lets us see the flow of liquid in, what it looks like. For me, it's a good way to know if we're getting oxygen into the beer when that time comes. So that'll go on next. Okay. From there, at this point, I'm actually going to take the in hose of our pump. There's some extra pieces here. I'm going to dip this in some sanitizer. It's going to get more sanitizer, but okay. And then that is going to go onto this valve. By valve, I mean the sight glass. Okay. Now the same valve here is going to go on the out of that 3-way. And I'll explain this all in a second once I get this situated, just so you guys can see everything and kind of get a better idea of what I'm doing. Close that. Okay. I'm gonna grab you here and just have you look at it. All right, so again, 3-way valve, or 3-way pipe, whatever, that goes into the bottom of the tank. This is gonna be the fermenter. It goes to a sight glass, which goes to the in of our pump. This has a valve on the side to prevent liquid from coming out this way. Later, when we're actually putting beer into this, the cooled off wort is gonna come into this part. We're gonna do some runoff out this, make sure that we have clean beer. That then gets sealed, and then this will be opened to let beer into the fermenter. Make sense? I promise, it'll make more later. All right, from there, we need to take the out hose of our pump. We're gonna connect it to the arm right there. A little easier if I set you guys down. Okay, so this is gonna go right over here on this hose. This is for our CIP, or clean in place. Now the fermenter already got acid. It's been washed, but it hasn't been sanitized yet. So that's all we're doing is a sanitation process for it. All right, that's sealed up. So things we need, we gotta get some water in here, and then we gotta get Oxonia active again. You remember that from the bucket at the beginning. This time I'm gonna run over, I'm gonna grab, about 10 ounces of it, and then we'll start filling this tank. All right, so this is the sanitizer, just goes right in. Again, Oxonia active, Ecolabs, my cold water hose. And then I have a clamp just helping to hold that in place. From there, I'm gonna run over to our water and get that started. All right, guys, while that's filling, I'm gonna grab you real quick and show you what the boil kettle's looking like right now. Let's pop this open. There we go. She's boiling. It was even closed and not boiling over, so that's pretty cool. That means we can go ahead at this point and we can add our hop addition. All right, guys, pro tip for this. Before we add in our hops, I'm going to take a minute. I'm gonna turn off the tank. I'll explain why. Okay, if you don't turn off the tank like I just did, you will get the worst boil over of your life. We're at boiling. I'm gonna take my 3 pounds of hops. I'm gonna add this initial addition. Okay, hops are in. We're gonna take our paddle, give her a good stir. Being careful not to just smash all of our heating elements or bend anything. Again, we're an electric brew house. Okay, letting that drain. don't want a messy paddle, basically. All right, so that's that. Now with that done, I'm gonna turn it on now. And then let's take a peek and see how it's looking. There's a lot of green going on. It's a lot of hop. Again, it just helps break it up, guys. If it nucleates too much, you'll see it foam up pretty hard. Hopefully we're doing okay yet that this isn't an issue. I do have to really quick reopen our valve to the outside. Okay, probably be able to see me do this. So we have a little valve that I installed in our stack, basically to allow me to vent if I feel the need, or close it if I have to. We get a lot of cold air that blows down this thing. And so that gives us a way to deal with that, okay? So that's good. We're gonna check this again, make sure we're not getting a boil over. So far, so good. We got a little bit of buildup there, but it looks like we can let it boil. So we're gonna set our timer for 30 minutes and let that go. We better get this going here quick though, in a sec. It's starting to do a lot at once. That is probably the biggest challenge with filming for you guys. Okay. So, we have sanitizer in this, we got plenty of water. We're gonna go ahead now, seal this up. And all it is, it has a spot where the lid fits. These things fit into little notches right here. And then I'm just tightening it up. There's already liquid in the bottom. It's going to our pump. It's gonna come over here. Now we're just gonna listen and you'll hear it start. See, there it is, right there. Stand close to it so you can hear it. That's telling us that our ball on the inside is spinning and it's coating all the tank in sanitizer right now. Now, while we're going, we're gonna put probably about 30 minutes into this to let it go, and then we're gonna get our our heat exchanger going, and then we'll sanitize that too. We're gonna get our next set of hops ready to go. Okay, we're just doing 1 pound again of the El Dorado. And then we'll do 1 pound of the Nelson Sauvin. There we go. All right, then we'll be able to put both those hop varieties away. This will be ready to go for about 25 minutes from now. Remember when we were talking about how physical being in a brewery is? This is probably the most dreaded thing to be doing, aside from cleaning kegs, but cleaning kegs is just boring. This is physical. So let's take a look. We have all this grain from that beer inside of this tank. And by tank, I mean mash tun. It is wet, and it needs to go from there to those. By the way, that's not gonna be enough tubs, but that's what we're starting with. The tools I have are a bucket and my shear string. So what I gotta do first, I gotta get these loosened up. The way you do that, just take a screwdriver and then you just twist them open. That's all there is to it. So I'm gonna set you down real quick, get you where you can kind of see what I'm doing. All right, yeah. Like I said, you just do that to get them started. Once they're started, they're pretty easy to get going. Okay, we got 2 pounds. Okay, so we added our hops, we're gonna stir them up. Same gig as before. It's really just to break up your hop pellets and incorporate them, so that they have less areas where nucleation is going to happen and you're going to get lots of bubbles, and then that leads to boilovers. All right, cool. I'm going to get the heat going again, and then we'll see where we're at with the mash tun. Time to measure out our final hop addition. This is going to go in at the 5-minute mark. So we're going to do another pound. This time it's Raku, whatever. Rakia! Who knows? I bet it's home country knows. Here we go, 1 pound. Looks great. That'll go in, like I said, at 5 minutes left. So while we're waiting, let's go ahead. We're gonna get our last little bit here done. So we need our nutrients for the beer. So we're going to grams. In this container, I have what's called yeast X. The way I dose is 5 grams per hectoliter. A 5-barrel system is about 7 hectoliters. So we're gonna do 35. And this stuff is so powdery. You see, I'm just pouring it and it's just shooting all over the place. And guys, always use yeast nutrient. If you have it and it's available to you, put it to use. It makes a huge difference for your yeast health. And healthy yeast makes clean beer. Okay, the other thing I'm gonna use, Whirlflack tea is what we have. And it is 2 tablets per barrel. Would you guess it, if it's a 5-barrel system, we're gonna use 10 tablets. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, perfect. Seal that back up. What Whirlflack does is it attaches to the proteins in your wort and it yanks out solids. It's just a way to help clarify the beer before it goes in to fermentation. So we're gonna save that. In the last 10 minutes, we'll throw it in. Alrighty guys, time to get the heat exchanger hooked up since we're done sanitizing our tank. So what I'm doing, I'm coming over to our tank that we were using before, the fermenter where we're gonna be putting the beer. The pump that was hooked up to that, I'm bumping that into the beer port of the heat exchanger. That's where the hot wort's going to go in. And don't worry, I'll grab you up here in a second and we'll walk through what all this kind of looks like. Okay. That is good. All right, now this is the outside, which sounds weird when I say it that way. This is our out. From here, I need to grab our CO2 stone. Okay. Getting some sanitizer again, just so you guys know. So this is our oxygen stone. That's what it looks like. Just kind of like a normal CO2 stone, but this one's for oxygen. That's going into this 3-way pipe. We're not gonna hook up oxygen yet, there's no need, but we need the stone in to plug the hole. Okay, and now we're gonna grab our last transfer line. Okay, and that's right here. That's going on the out of the tank. By tank, I mean out of this heat exchanger. Okay, tighten that up. Coolio. And then that's going back over to the fermenter that we're fermenting with. I'm gonna shoot this through the spigot spout. I'll show you what I mean in a second, because the term spigot spout doesn't make a lot of sense. All right, cool. And then I'm gonna open this up because it's gonna rotate here in a second. All right, so let's walk through this. We're coming out of the bottom of the fermenter. This still has the same sanitizer we had going before. I'm gonna shoot this out real quick, just make sure that has sufficient liquid in it. Okay, so it comes out the bottom. It's coming to our pump. It goes in the bottom of the pump, comes out the top. That then travels to, and we labeled ours, beer wort in, right here. It's gonna go through the heat exchanger, out the temperature side, three-way pipe, down this, back into the fermenter on the side port. So let's go ahead, we'll get it going. And with this one, we actually got to get this open so we can even hear or see. Yeah, it's flown. Here, just so you guys can see it, and then maybe we can go through how to close this. Sorry, I'm gonna flashlight for you so you can see what's going on. See, we got water flow right there. That's how we know it's circulating. All right, so we didn't touch on this before, how to close this thing. And I gotta figure out how I'm gonna hold you here. Here. Maybe like this. Okay, and then I'll just zoom you in, guys. Sorry if the quality's not quite there, but anyway, this comes forward like so, and it's seated now. This piece right here that I'm wiggling lines up with two slots on the tank. It's lined up now, and then I just need to tighten it in. There's a washer essentially that goes all the way around it, and now that's all sealed up, and we're just pumping liquid in. So we'll let that keep cleaning. The timer just went off again. So now we're at the point where we're gonna go ahead and add our yeast nutrient. For this, with Whirlfloc and yeast nutrient, you don't need to turn off the heat. All right, it's not gonna affect anything. So that just goes in. It's circulating right now. The boil's going on. There's not really even a need to stir it. It's gonna do what it has to do anyway. What I am gonna do though, this time around, I will stir it just to give our paddle a deeper dip inside of here. I'm just getting it nice and hot. Any residual, anything, I kind of want to get off it, because we're gonna use this at the end to get a good whirlpool going. All right, there. Okay, same thing, let it kind of drain off a little bit. I'm just gonna set that down over here. Kaboom. And then, yeah guys, 5 minutes and then we'll have our final hop addition. It's the final hop addition. This is the last 5 minutes of the boil. I have it boiling still, but we're only doing a pound, so we should be okay. I don't see a hop boil over happening really at this point. Still take your paddle though, you want to stir it up. Great. Okay, 5 more minutes and then we're ready to whirlpool. All right guys, we're officially at knockout, so I'm turning off the heat. So heat's off right now. We hit knockout. Now you could whirlpool with a pump, yes. We don't tend to do that. We just apply a little bit of patience and some manpower once again. Okay, so our rule of thumb is 20 stirs in full circle, which is pretty ridiculous, but all I'm doing right now is getting a good spin going in the tank. And that's actually about all you really need. And this will end up making a nice, compact cone in the center of all our debris. Like I said in the beginning, guys, we have a very manual system. Just remember, automation is a luxury. it can create more consistency, I guess. But you can also focus just on your technique and how you go about things, and you'll hit it every time too. Once you have your system figured out and you know what your efficiencies are, you tend to hit your targets dead on every time, or be really close. Okay, we got plenty of speed going. I'm gonna try and get you guys a view of that, just so you can see how quick that is. I will say, guys, this is some sticky wort, so I'm really thinking we're gonna end up with some great efficiency today. Okay. Try and get you some light so you can see what's going on. It's always hard to see in here. But I think you can see a couple things floating around and spinning. But yeah, anyway, that's what it looks like. While we wait, let's go ahead and get that filter set back up. This port right here is set up just a little bit higher than the bottom port. It doesn't pull from the absolute bottom. This pulls just a little bit above it. So this is where we end up actually taking stuff from. All right, so we got our long pipe. That goes on again. And guys, this tends to be the one where I really notice the biggest difference when filtering, just because it has a lot of opportunity to suck up like debris when it comes out of here. Just because you have all your hops in there and stuff, and we don't necessarily want those in our final beer. And so we can avoid the majority of that just by hooking up something like this. So we got that. Gotta grab our big clamp here. Okay, good, we still got that. It's all been sanitized. We're gonna set that in and we're gonna secure that all together. Now guys, I'll tell you, this can, if you do suck up a lot of junk, clog up. So we don't want that to happen. But again, it's better to be safe about it again. This is being really picky. There's most of the time I don't do this, but I think it's a habit worth bringing back. So from here, I'm gonna grab my pump and start hooking all that back up too. So, turning off the pump. Okay. This just comes over here. And we're kind of lucky. This is really set up nice today where we don't have a lot of room we have to make up. All right, there we go. So we're coming out of the tank into here. The liquid you saw falling out of the pump, that's sanitizing fluid. You're gonna find out when this comes out, we're gonna push all of that out of the system again. Okay. All right, and then I just gotta grab you guys so I can make sure you see. We're gonna take the hose that was going back into that side port, we're gonna bring that down to the bottom again. All right, this is our side port hose, so we're gonna grab that. It's coming down here. Okay, and we're connecting that to our sight glass. Okay, and we're gonna get our runoff hose on here too. And the runoff hose is just that. Specifically, we use this to catch any runoff that needs to come out of this tank, but we'll also use it to get the sanitizing liquid out. So that's easy peasy. Okay. Attach the tri-clamp again. We'll just pull this back a little bit so we can angle this how we want it. Okay. And then from here, we'll go ahead and drain that out, which I have a little too tight of a turn. Okay. And so what's in here right now is just sanitizing liquid. And so I just open that, and I'm draining it out. Grab you guys over here so you can see. And that's just sanitizer coming out of the tank. We use that to clean out our hot liquor tank, and now we use it to do the fermenter as well. And yeah, we'll just drain all that out. Don't need it anymore. So this is our oxygen tank, and the way oxygen tanks work, they're actually flowing liters per minute. For us, we tend to shoot around 2 liters per minute when we're doing this. But anyway, that's your hose. Comes up here, and then it just hooks in like that. So that's all set up. Now let's talk about this a little bit. So, like I said, it's measuring liters per minute, how much is flowing out. So when it's giving you 2, that means you have enough pressure built up to put in 2 liters per minute. As opposed to when you're using like your standard pressure gauge, that's measuring pressure. You don't know how fast that's flowing necessarily, because if there's less resistance, there's less pressure. And so it flows faster. But I don't know, that's kind of an obscure way of saying it. So even when you're carbonating your tank, you can go up to a certain pressure and kind of get an idea of what you're gonna get. But traditionally, I'll actually stick a flow meter on that as well, because I want to have 5 to 6 as my range typically, versus like, I don't know, just 30 PSI, because it really dictates how it's carbonating. There's a lot more complexity. Maybe we'll do another video someday just talking about that. But the long and short of it is we need to know how fast the oxygen's being introduced to the wort for us to successfully replicate this every time. When I was home brewing, I just had the little wand attached to a little oxygen tank, and you just basically swirl it around in there for a minute with high flow, and you're like, all right, it has oxygen, and you know, it does. That really improves the quality of what you're doing, but it's hard to replicate, and you don't really know exactly what you had. So it's better if you can, in the long run, get an oxygen stone and get a flow meter, but you know, some of that's kind of priced out for some of us. But anyway, back to it. All right, guys, now this is huge, okay? Right here, this is our actual port for where we're gonna be able to get beer out. All that fluid that was in here is out. It's gone already. Like, it's all drained out, all that jazz. But I wanna show you something. I'm gonna pull this open right now. Everything's drained out, it quit flowing. There was more in it. That's something you always need to remember. Always make sure these are empty. Same thing's gonna happen here now. I'm gonna take this off because there's a little pocket right here where fluid can collect. I'm gonna pull that open. More liquid comes out. You can also double check your cleaning procedures. Make sure there's no junk in there. I know for a fact it was already clean because when I did the actual cleaning, I made sure it was good. But now that we got all that sanitizer out there, we know we're not gonna put all the sanitizer right back into our beer. You don't want that. It's gonna not be so great. So there you go. Just a little pro tip there on making sure you get these last 2 spots, otherwise you're gonna be sitting with sanitizer in your stuff. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and start the transfer from our boil kettle. It's had plenty of time to settle in, so I'm closing off the fermenters so that nothing can get in there. We're gonna shoot out, like I said before, of our other pipe. And actually, you know what? All right, so let's start the transfer. I'm gonna turn on the pump. It's pulling off of nothing right now. I'm opening my boil kettle, which is all separated nice. We're gonna come over here to our sight glass. We're gonna wait for that to start flowing out. It looks like we got a little bit of a trickle, so that's a good start. It's trying. There we go. All right, if you look at that, you can see it starting to move now. We're not really to beer yet. That's still just like foam and junk. All right, there we go. Now it transferred over. We're gonna seal this, open this, get our air on. Okay, and that's it, guys. Now we're just transferring, so we just gotta let it move. If you watch this, now that we got the oxygen going, you'll see it do this. I'm gonna set up a gas off hose right here to this so that we can make sure we're getting flow and everything. All that really entails, I just need a blow off hose and my same classic tri-clamp setup. Put that here. And in a second here, I gotta check my temperature as well on this. All right, it's coming out pretty cold. I might slow the water flow a little bit, but anyway, let's get a bucket going. There's that. Purpose of this, again, is just to get flow going. So like you can see, that beer's moving in. I don't know, it's just a little extra reassurance that you're getting good flow and air's pushing out, nothing's going back into the tank. So that's all it is. So we're gonna let that keep transferring. As you can see here, it's going into the tank at like 68 degrees. We're gonna slow down the water flow. I'd rather have it about 80, just because if I go faster than that, I'm gonna run out of space to basically collect. But yeah, the rest gets done by the tank itself. So just let it down and I'll be with you when the transfer is complete. Last thing before we do the yeast, I'm gonna go ahead and draw a wort sample. Here, let's see if I can get this to focus on where we're at as opposed to where it wants to. All right. Okay, so we're gonna get a wort sample. I've already got the hydrometer in here. All right, and then let's go check out our reading.
All right, guys, and then you just want to get this to float. We have it on a level surface. Okay, it's looking about 1.074,
which, guys, this was my point with switching back to that old filter, or not filter, but our screen at the bottom of the mash tun. We were supposed to get, our guess for original gravity was 1.066. We got 1.074. We're almost a full, 0.010 above our target. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means there's more alcohol in this, potentially in the backside, than we were anticipating. But I'll get the efficiency for you quick and then we'll talk. Okay guys, I punched everything in with that into the software, and with how much wort we collected, standard with just those slatted screen bottoms that I normally was using, I was getting like 72% efficiency. With this, using our old screen and a different grain, granted, 82% efficiency. So, I mean, we went up like a whole 10% in efficiency. That's not subtle, that's not like tiny. In the end, it's gonna possibly make this more of like a, no, I don't know, 7.2% like IPA. So, I mean, not a bad thing, believe me. So I programmed that in from the start, thinking that that might happen. We'll see kind of how it goes. Here, let me plug in a final gravity on this because it's thinking something silly. Yikes, okay. So if we get down to 1.010, which is kind of likely, it's gonna be like 8.8%. I mean, we're approaching, past, this is an Imperial IPA at this point. It's okay, again, I programmed for that, but we'll have to dry hop pretty heavily, but it's substantial. So, pay attention to those processes, see what they're like, and it really makes a big difference. But real quick, before we wrap things up, let's get the yeast. because that's always the last thing we do, right? So on this batch, we're just using Cephal SO4. Yeah, this one's a dry yeast. It's a British yeast. They tend to emphasize IPAs in a really nice way with the esters. We don't always use dry yeast. There's a lot of beers where it just isn't gonna work, but for a lot of beers, it works fine. In this case, this will do great. It should rip through it. If it leaves a little residual behind, that'd be fantastic, but historically, it doesn't for us. So let's go ahead and pitch. All right, guys, popping up here. This is where our yeast enters the beer. So we'll pop the top port. Perfect, and then we're just gonna dump it in. That's all you gotta do. Yes, guys, I know that you can make a slurry with this, but even if you contact the manufacturer directly, they're pretty fine with just pouring it in. And I promise you, I've been brewing with these guys since 2019, never had a fermentation issue. There's no stuck fermentations, no under fermentation. It always overperforms. And it's not like it's making a ton of esters or anything. All right, guys. In general, that is the long and short of a brew day. If you look behind me, there's still cleaning to do. We'll go into another video at some point of the whole cleaning process, just because I think it's worth taking the time to show how a brewery does it. It's pretty different from the home brewing process, just because we have CIP, which is clean in place. And I think that's worth actually going a little more in depth with. Plus, guys, this video has been long enough. We ended up with what was gonna be like a 6.5% IPA. It's probably gonna be more like a 8.5 to 8% IPA. We'll see. I'll let you know how it ends up turning out. But again, that's the fun of doing some new things with the beer. This isn't a style where I'm recreating something I've already made. I can have some liberty with it and play with it. And it being a little bigger, it's South Dakota in the winter, kids. It is cold here, and people like a big beer this time of year. So again, as long as we give it enough aroma and all that other good stuff, it'll balance out fine. I'm not too worried about it. But guys, I really appreciate you taking the time. If this video has been useful to you, please take the time, subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and then leave me a comment. Like if you have any questions about anything I did, or you have anything you want me to go more in depth with, I am more than happy to do that. Just give me a topic that you'd like more information on, and I'll happily go more in depth. Again, I'll try and go through tier 2 and have chapters and everything, but just let me know what you're looking for. I'm more than happy to help. I'm an open book. I'm not a tight-lipped brewer. I tend to talk about my process, and I'm fine with that. It's all about the community and the art. And you guys, thanks for being a part of the community. I'm Michael Hoyer at Michael Brews, Watertown Brewing Company. Stay good out there.